Okay. So, hello. Welcome back to my tutorial series. I'm Pedal7, self-taught Python and Pygame programmer and speedrunner, and today I'm going to show you how you can create timers in Pygame. I based this off of a class by Clearcode. Go check him out. I have to give him massive props for this. And well, this is the fourth part of my tutorial series. In the last parts, we've created a window in Pygame, a text engine, and a little FPS system, delta time system. If you wonder what that means, go check the last parts out. So we went as far as this. Um, and what I want to fix today is you see this FPS is like really inconsistent, and it doesn't really matter if it's like 60 or 61. So I just want to update that display every second. So, and if I just quickly run my program here, you see it updates every second. Um, yeah, and that's basically what we are going to do. So, and for that we'll need um, a new file, and we are going to name that timer. And this timer file is basically going to be really easily importable or incorporatable into any of your Pygame projects. You don't even need to have Pygame for it. Or you don't even need to import Pygame for it in your main project. You don't need to use Pygame in your main project, but probably, but you should definitely use Pygame here. So let's start. So first of all, we want to import a function from Pygame. So we want to do from pygame.time import get ticks. So we just import that function because we just need that function. That function basically says how many milliseconds have passed by since the last calling of that function. So then we want to get the timer object or timer class timer left under init. And here we are going to need many arguments after self. So first we need the duration, and we want to save that as an attribute. Self.duration equal equals duration. God. And this basically determines how long the timer goes in milliseconds. Um, and well, that's the only argument we would really need. But we also want to have a repeat function, so a repeat argument. That's basically like, do you want to repeat the timer after? So should the timer reset after finishing? Then we want to auto start maybe, which is just like a little argument, so you don't need to call the start function in your main project every time. We want to get an end function, which by default is going to be none, and that is just going to be what the timer does once it's finished, and an on update function, which is really like one of the only things I did myself and not just right off of clearcode. um, yeah, you should definitely go check them out. So first, I'm gonna say self.start time equals 0, and this is just going to be like a placeholder attribute. 0 is not going to be like always there. I'll explain that in a bit. Then self.active equals false. We'll set that on once we want to update the timer and once the timer is going to be, well, active. But we don't want that on default. We are going to do that in a separate function. Then self.repeat equals repeat. And yeah, as I already said, this just determines if the timer should reset after finishing. Then self.endfunc equals endfunc. I already explained that one. And self.onUpdate equals onUpdate. So self.onUpdate equals onUpdate. And yeah, I already explained that one. And to incorporate the auto start mechanic, we don't want to save that as an argument. We want to call self.activate, which we are going to create now. Def activate, no need for arguments other than self. And we're gonna set self.active to true. So we are going in the update loop. We are going to check if active is true, and that will determine if we update the timer. So then we want to get the start time to later check if the timer is when the timer completed. So we wanna silly little spelling mistake. So we basically want to get the start time now when the timer started, so we don't always count from time 0. And we are going to use save.startTime for this, and we are going to use getTicks for this. And that is the only thing where we want to use getTicks to, well, get the start time. Oh no, we also want to later use that. Okay. Def deactivate. So we want to do some stuff on deactivating, and we want to set self.active to false and self.start time to 0 again, and then we want to incorporate the repeating functionality, which is going to be really easy. It's self.repeat, so we are checking if the boolean self.repeat is true or false. If that is the case, if it's true, then we want to activate it once again, which is going to be like a loop. And then we want to do an update function. And you really need to understand this in object-oriented programming with Pygame. You will run that update function every frame, every single frame after the creation of the timer. So that's why we need like an active argument. Yeah. So if we are active, we want to do some stuff. So first, if we have a self.update, so if self.update is not none, but we can also just do if self.onUpdate, because it will say, okay, it's not none, so yeah, because it's a function and we want to call that if that's the case. And then we want to say set the current time, just the local variable, to get ticks. So yeah, I basically lied when I said we only are going to use that function once. Okay. And then we want to check if the timer is completed. Then if completed, don't worry, that's just a placeholder. If self.endfunc, so same game as if self.onUpdate. It checks if the function is not none, and we wanna then call that function, and we wanna deactivate ourselves. Deactivate. Yeah, I spelled it correctly. So and we want to complete it, it's going to be an error because we haven't said what completed is. So if current time minus self.start time is bigger or equal to self.duration. And basically this means, let's say we started the timer on tick or on frame 20, on millisecond 20, and the duration is 1000 milliseconds, and our current time is 500 milliseconds. Then it's going to say, okay, 500 minus 20 is 480. This is not bigger or equal than self-duration, so we should keep going, which is what we want. Yeah. And yeah, this should be it in this file. And yeah, yeah, this is the right one. Okay. Now we want to use it. So I already talked about importing stuff from folders in my in the tutorial before the last tutorial. So in my text engine tutorial, and we want to import the timer class, and we want to do that from code.timer import timer. And yeah, and now we want to do the initialization of the FPS timer system in another thing. So I'm relatively proud of the system because I created it myself and didn't just steal it off clear code. So what this is going to do, it's going to update the FPS display every second. So we wanna create another function called init FPS timer system. No need for arguments here because we are just going to call it under init. And here we wanna set a few arguments. Self.fps equals 0. Yeah, just a placeholder variable, just like in the timer class with start time. And then we are going to need a function. So update FPS equals, and I'm going to just not do anything right there, and just quickly create the timer class. So self.fps update timer equals a timer. So we are going to call this class, and let me just copy the arguments over. So we wanna get these arguments and so an update we can keep as none. Duration, we want to update that every second. I just think it's really cool every second. You can also do like every 5 seconds or something. And yeah, repeat, we want to update that every 1000 milliseconds. And it shouldn't just update once at the start of the game and then never again. So we want to repeat that. Auto start, yeah, we want to say auto start has to, and because then we don't need to set it to start, and we are going to update the FPS display. So we are going to call this function when we are ending the timer. So now you've probably never heard of lambda functions before. I would recommend that you go visit ClearCode's Ultimate Introduction to Python to understand lambda functions. I'm just going to introduce you to it. So a lambda function is essentially like a shorter way of defining a function. So wait, let me first do the following. Def set FPS with self. Right. And the value. I'm going to do this a little more complicated than it has to be, but you're probably going to need lambda functions sooner or later if you wanna not do 100 million functions every time. So I'm just going to do this self.fps equals value. So this is like a really simple function. And now update fps. It's going to be lambda of self.set fps. So what this allows me to do is get another function that just calls another function with the arguments without calling it on start. And we want to do the following. We want to set that to a rounded value of self.clock.getFPS with the n digits as 2. So what this does, it gets the FPS of our clock and rounds it up to 2 after the comma digits. And yeah, this is all it needs. You could also just do it over here, so set FPS equals I just do it differently. I sorry for the little thingy. That's my dad coming home. So now we want to call that function initialize the system to update the FPS display once per second. And we just want to call the function. Yeah. So, this should do all of the initialization. And now we want to keep this basically, but we want to just display self.fps. And we also want to update our FPS timer. This, if you remember, gets called every frame, and we want to just update the timer every frame too. And now this should be alright. We don't need to change this because we are still using the same variable. And let's run it. And well, as you can see, it works. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll do more coding tutorials in the future. So if you like this, maybe go check the other ones out. And yeah, have a nice day and bye.